Hello, everybody. I'm here to explain to you a little bit about what we're doing here with solving quadratic equations by square roots. So I have a quadratic equation over here. This is the equation. It's quadratic because it's x squared. To solve this manually, we're going to isolate the x squared by getting it alone, just like you would normally do if it was x. So I add 9 to both sides. That'll cancel this side. You get x squared equals 9. Now, to get rid of the square, you have to square root because that's an inverse function of a square. So that kind of cancels the square root and the square, and you just get x. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Whenever you take the square root of a square, like I did right here, the square root of 9 is 3, but it's not only 3, it's also negative 3. So this is square quadratics will usually have two answers. And sometimes you'll see it written a little differently with this new symbol maybe that you're not used to, plus and minus, meaning both the positive 3 and the negative 3. So both of these are kind of like the correct answer here. Now on a graph, things are a little different. So I'm going to be pointing on this graph. This graph that you see here has this equation right here graphed in red, and that's the parabola. And then this equation right here, which is, by the way, y equals 0, which is a horizontal line on the x-axis, that one right there, that's the dotted line on the graph. So when you're doing this problem here, you look right here, see how they intersect at 3, 0? That's one of the answers. And the other answer is over here. So the way to solve these graphically, and I'll explain this one more time because it's a little goofy. This is the least important of the learning targets. Everything I did over here is very important. This is graphed as a parabola. This is graphed as a line, and the x values as where they cross are the answers, and it happens to be both positive and negative 3. So let's just do another one here. So I'll start with the graph this time. So as I look at this one, when I'm doing the blue line, the blue line is just y equals 2. So that's that dashed line on the left-hand side of my paper. And then the red line is this parabola that can be graphed using the vertex negative b over 2a and picking points and graphing it. But I just graphed it over there on the left because I used a technology piece to graph it. Now, where do these two things cross? It looks like they cross right here around 2. Okay, it's kind of finicky to get it exactly to 2, but it looks like the x value there is 2. And on this side, the x value is negative 2. So before I even begin, I bet my answer is both a 2 and a negative 2. So now let's do the math. So get the x squared alone, add 10. Cancels this. You've got 3x squared equals 12. Now, just like you normally would, you would then get the x alone by dividing by 3. This is all stuff you learned first semester. We've been doing all year. Now comes the new moment in time. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Square root both sides. Whenever you square root of a square, these cancel, and don't forget your plus and minus. The square root of 4 is 2. Don't forget to look for that square root button on your calculator. So if I look at that on my calculator, I'm kind of grabbing it here. It is above the x squared button. So hopefully you can see that. It's above the x squared button right there. See the square root? So you have to hit second. We've done them before, so hopefully you remember. I'm just going to jump ahead and do kind of one of these harder ones that has parentheses like this. So let's do this one here. So now I'm going to do the same thing, solving by square roots. All of this was on the front of your note page. To get the x squared alone, I need to isolate this whole section. So there's a 2 here. Let's get rid of that 2. Remember, order of operations goes backwards. You do parentheses last when you're solving equations. So when I do this, the 2's cancel. I get x minus 4 quantity squared equals 8 divided by 2, which is 4. And then I get rid of the square by square rooting. This is odd now because this is the moment you get a plus and minus. So you get x minus 4 equals both the positive and the negative 2. That's the square root of 4. And then you add 4 to both sides. Okay, so now I cancel this and I get x equals, there's two math problems here. One of them is this positive 2 that I have. I'm going to do it separately. And I add 4. Positive 2 plus 4 is 6. Let's go over to the graph. Is one of the x crossing 6? Looks like it to me right there. And then I'm going to do the other section of the problem. I'll do this in green. So now I'm going to do this negative 2 piece. So I'm going to do that over here. X equals negative 2. And I still do plus 4. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2. That's my second answer. Those are my two answers. Is the other intersection at an x equals 2? It is. So that's basically how you do it. I hope it all makes sense to you. Thanks for coming today.